Here's your wrestling news for November 28, 2021. And your headlines for today include WWE asking fans for feedback to improve NXT 2.0. Released WWE wrestler explains why she is selling so many things after WWE release. Bruce Prichard talks difficulty CM Punk had with old-timers in WWE. Former WWE Universal Champion to join Bloodline. Big E explains the reason why New Day received a pushback. The Miz's dad gets into the action at indie wrestling event. Top Dolla says controversial rap song had nothing to do with his WWE release. He was missing it. Details on former WWE star who Stephanie McMahon wanted to push to the top, and more. We're kicking off today with WWE, and when the company launched NXT 2.0 in September, the Gold brand went through dramatic changes both to its aesthetic and its roster. Now names like Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes are rising through the ranks of the paint-splattered brand, and WWE is wanting some feedback from the fans. That's why the company sent out a survey this week to anyone on their mailing list asking what they think about a variety of topics from NXT 2.0. Fans are being asked about everything from the production quality to the storylines to the superstars themselves, and in the wake of reports that NXT 2.0 may move to a TV 14 rating, fans are also being asked about whether the show has enough violence. One of the biggest complaints about WWE is that they don't listen to their audience, and while they definitely are now, we'll have to see if WWE acts on their feedback. This month, Mia Yim was cut from her WWE contract alongside her fiancé Keith Lee. Although Yim is having to wait out her 90-day non-compete clause before wrestling elsewhere, she's making money already, selling some worn bikinis as well as her Xbox One. This has left fans wondering what her plan is, and in an Instagram story, the former Reckoning explained that she and Lee are moving and thinks it's a better idea to sell these items rather than throw them away. Time will tell where Yim and Lee end up next, as they spent a lot of time getting settled in the Orlando area, but with neither going to the Performance Center anymore, there's no reason for the wrestling couple to stick around. In 2006, CM Punk debuted for WWE as part of the ECW brand and would go on to have an incredible 8-year run with the company. Impressing fans with his in-ring skills, Punk had a memorable debut at that year's Survivor Series, aligning with Team DX to defeat Team Rated RKO. Although fans gave Punk a huge pop that night, one of many in his career, many backstage didn't understand what the big deal was about Punk, as Bruce Prichard explained on his podcast this week. I think from the day that Punk stepped into the WWE locker room that there was that perception from a lot of people until, Punk actually did it. Despite that, there were still the doubters in that regard. But at this time, I really don't think it was just Triple H, it was a lot of the old-timers that viewed him, what the hell is this guy? Punk was brand new here. Punk would go on to have a lengthy, successful run in WWE before joining AEW earlier this year, as after once being the new star in town, Punk hopes to elevate the younger members of Tony Khan's company. For the last couple of years, Roman Reigns has been the backbone of WWE, but there could be a time when the Tribal Chief isn't around. During his promo on SmackDown, Reigns called himself the greatest of all time and went on to subtly tease that his time in WWE could be coming to an end. He said, "I'm the greatest of all time, and when my days are done around here, which could be sooner than later, the whole world will acknowledge me." As the reigning Universal Champion and Tribal Chief of WWE, it's difficult to see why Reigns could be so eager to hang up his boots, but there's a good chance he's being tempted away by Hollywood. After all, John Cena, The Rock, and Batista have all transitioned into superstardom on the silver screen, and Reigns could be the next big name to do so. During a recent appearance on the Michael Kay Show, Reigns was asked about a Hollywood transition and responded, saying, "I think there's going to be some movies made here pretty soon. There's always speculation and contract talks, all that question of it is my business. That's something I definitely want to dabble in and gain more experience. I want to use these tools that I've learned. WWE has done so right by me. They've given me so much and placed so many great blessings and opportunities in front of me, and I've just had to capture them. I've just had to grab that ball and run with it." It's worth noting that Reigns does have some movie experience under his belt already, having appeared in Fast and Furious Hobbs & Shaw, and will be in the upcoming animated film Rumble, set to release on Paramount Plus next month. As for now, the Universal Champion, now in his 455th day, is closing in on Brock Lesnar's record-setting 504-day reign, but should the Tribal Chief break that record and beat Lesnar at Mania, then there'll be little else for him to accomplish in WWE, making a move to Hollywood all the more likely. Big E is just the latest name to fall to the Tribal Chief, but that won't hold back the power of positivity that comes from the New Day alum. In their years together, the New Day have had plenty of colorful, unique attires, and at WrestleMania 33 donned a look inspired by Dragon Ball Z. On the Illuminati podcast, the reigning WWE champion spoke about that attire, saying that he, Kofi, and Woods did get some pushback backstage, as WWE don't own the rights to the Dragon Ball franchise. Big E added that he's bummed fans will never get a figure of the three in those attires, but said that there's only been 2 or 3 instances where the group has gotten trouble for their attires, adding that it's never really been a big deal. With WrestleMania 38 just over 4 months away, we'll have to see what attire the New Day have for next April's show, and no matter how unhappy WWE were at the Dragon Ball attire, tons of fans were happy to see that mashup. In 2019, George Mizanin, the father of The Miz, interjected in his son's WrestleMania 35 match with Shane McMahon, and now the reverse second-generation wrestler is back in business. At an Absolute Intense wrestling event, George was sat in the front row and during a 6-man tag got physical by chopping Philly Collins, which the indie star sold like death. Matt Cardona, who was teaming with Collins on the night, wasn't thrilled, firing off an expletive-heavy tweet at The Miz's dad, and who knows when the former sandwich shop owner turned WrestleMania performer will show up next. When Hit Row were released earlier this month, just 2 weeks after B-Fab was let go, rumors quickly circulated about the group's release, as the company reportedly had big plans for them. One popular theory was that a diss track, created by Top Dolla and aimed at Jinder Mahal and Shanky, was the reason behind the releases, but that couldn't be further from the truth. As Top Dolla told Busted Open Radio, Jinder was a huge fan of the track and would argue that Dolla didn't say anything wrong in his barbs against the former WWE champion. Addressing a complaint that the beat he used was insensitive, Top Dolla explained that the beat is Beware by Punjabi MC, which is the most famous Indian sample in the history of hip-hop. Dolla went on to say that Jinder could not have had a problem with the beat because they worked on the song together, and said the idea that the diss track got him fired was ridiculous. Dolla's diss track may not have got him fired, but his reported attitude issues backstage were definitely a factor, and it led to Ashanti Adonis and Isaiah Scott getting caught in the crossfire, and now all 3 will have to find work outside WWE when their non-compete clauses expire. In the world of wrestling, there's countless stars who never live up to their fullest potential, and Dan Rodimer is one of them. Part of 2004's Tough Enough, Rodimer signed a developmental contract with WWE in July 2016 and was once topped to be the next big thing by Stephanie McMahon. McMahon was such a supporter that there were reportedly plans to fast-track him for a main roster push, but that didn't happen after he failed to impress in dark matches and house shows. Speaking on his podcast, Bruce Prichard explained what went wrong for Rodimer, saying, "Well, I think that a lot of people like Dan. Big Dan, when you looked at him, that was someone that you could see, on a poster for WrestleMania. He had the look, he had the personality, however, he was missing it." Prichard added that Rodimer didn't help himself by treating wrestling as a work rather than a shoot, and explained that every wrestler needs at least some part of their real personality to base their on-screen character on. That's the big mistake with people. When they approach it as a work, if you approach this as a work, hey man, you just get through it because it's all gaga, it'll never get over. It may get over for a time, but it won't stay over. Sure enough, Rodimer didn't stay over, and was released just 1 year into his developmental contract, and has since entered the world of politics, where he's had similar success. And we're ending today with Kevin Owens, whose WWE contract ends in January, and WWE are hoping to keep the former Universal Champion away from AEW. We've already seen Owens be thrust into the main event picture on Raw, but now a move to SmackDown and program with WWE's biggest star is reportedly in the works. At a recent live event in Roanoke, Virginia, Owens sported a shirt for the Bloodline, which fans in the arena were shocked to see, but it's part of a bigger story. According to sources, the idea pitched by Bruce Prichard is for Owens to move to SmackDown and join the Bloodline, where he'll remain heel, but be distrusted by the likes of the Usos and Paul Heyman. That distrust will be warranted, as Owens will eventually turn on Roman Reigns, sparking a babyface push that'll see him challenge for the Universal title. This is one of the ideas that WWE and Prichard are thinking of. WWE's belief is that another Universal title push is exactly what's needed for Owens to re-sign, but after nearly 5 years since he last held the gold, time will tell if being given another title shot, one which he'll presumably lose since Reigns vs. Lesnar is all but guaranteed for Mania, is enough to keep the prizefighter in WWE. What do you think of Kevin Owens joining the Bloodline? Sound off in the comments below. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.